Cooking without power, the best stove for your grid down kitchen. As much as you enjoy cooking and preparing hot, tasty meals in your modern grid powered kitchen, when the power goes out, short term or long term, this stove is not going to work. But these stoves will. And having one of those stoves equals hot, tasty meals even when the power's out. And in this video, I'm going to show you what is, in my opinion, the best alternative grid down SHTF stove to use indoors safely if you have the right equipment. I'm beginning a new video series on how to prepare your modern grid powered kitchen for use during such times. And this is the first episode. So what is the primary use of a kitchen? It's to prepare and cook hot, tasty meals. So in this video, the first episode of the Grid Down Kitchen series, I'm going to compare that stove to my regular everyday grid powered stove and give you some real world results so you can see how the alternative stove compares to a regular, normal, modern grid powered stove. My name's Les, and I want to welcome you to the Cheffprepper channel, where we make videos that are worth your time. And if the idea of preparing to be able to use your modern grid powered kitchen in grid down times sounds appealing to you, I want to ask you to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel. It doesn't take you hardly any time to do that. It helps the channel immensely. And please let me know in the comments that you like the idea of this series and or this video, and whether or not you'd like to see more videos like this one in regard to converting your modern kitchen into a grid down SHTF kitchen. Before we start the comparisons between the alternative stove and the electric stove, this video is about a type of stove, not a particular brand, even though you will see the brand that I have in the video. This is not a sponsored video. The stove wasn't sent to me to review. I bought it with my money because it's the stove that I wanted to have as a primary cooking source for my family's preps. I'll put a link to the one that I have down in the description box, and to a couple of other options of similar type stoves. And should you decide that you want to get one of these types of stoves, I will greatly appreciate it if you use one of those links. This is the stove. As you can see, it's a Gas 1 brand, but the important thing is that it's a dual fuel stove. It will use butane or propane. And that's why I chose this type of stove as my family's primary alternative grid down indoor cooking stove. So how do the fuels compare to one another, and how do they compare to the stove? The butane has roughly 21,300 BTUs per pound. Those are 8-ounce cans, so about 10,500 BTUs per can. The propane has about 21,600 BTUs per pound. The price, as of filming this video, at Walmart, $9.87 for the 2, $7.97 for the 3. That comes out to about $2.70 roughly per can, or a little less than $5 per can for each of the propane canisters. Both fuels give you about the same amount of heat. They will burn about the same amount of time if you use the same setting on any given stove. But how do they compare to the electric stove? The burners on a typical kitchen stove that's powered by electricity are rated in watts, not BTUs. The small burners typically are about 1200 watts. If you convert that to BTUs, that's roughly 4000 BTUs for the small burner on high. The larger burners will typically be 2500 to 3000 or maybe a little more watts. That converts to roughly 8500 to 10,000 or so BTUs. The stove we just looked at is a 15,000 BTU stove. So we should expect it to perform really well compared to the modern kitchen stove. So please take note. I am not telling you that you can use this stove indoors. This is a manual that came with the stove, and you can see it says for outdoor use as a camp stove, not for household use. So I'm not telling you that you can use this stove indoors. I'm telling you that I made the choice to use this stove indoors. I've done so several times. But along with making that choice, I also got the necessary safety equipment: fire extinguisher, fire blanket, and a carbon monoxide detector. If you decide to use this stove or a stove like it indoors, please make sure that you have a carbon monoxide detector. If you don't, it is not safe to use this type of stove indoors. And of course, this stove or any stove like it makes a great choice to have for an outdoor stove. We're going to bring 32 ounces of water each test to a rolling boil. I'm going to start off using the modern kitchen stove, the small burner. I'm going to start with the burner already heated and on high, because the butane stove, once you turn it on, it's ready to go. It doesn't have to heat up like this stove does. One minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 4 minutes, 5 minutes, 6 minutes. A little less than 6 minutes, the small burner on a modern kitchen stove brought 1 quart of water to a rolling boil. 32 ounces of water again. The water, the kettle, everything is room temperature, just like when we used the small burner, this time the large burner. Don't do that when you do your cooking. 1 minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes. Almost there. 3 minutes and a half. The large burner took approximately 3.5 minutes to come to a rolling boil for 32 ounces of water. The butane and the canister together weigh 332 grams. I'll weigh it again after the water starts to boil, and we'll see how much butane it took to bring 32 ounces of water to a rolling boil. We're going to use it on high because we had stove burners on high. One minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 3.5 minutes, 4 minutes. So less than 4 minutes, and the butane brought 32 ounces of water to a rolling boil. Can was 332 before we did that. Now it's 306. About 1 ounce. The propane weighs 880 grams before we start. One minute. 2 minutes. 3 minutes. 3.5 minutes. 4 minutes. Looks like the propane is going to be a little slower than the butane. 5 minutes. 'The weight of the propane after boiling the water, 863 grams. It was 880 before. So 17 grams of propane to bring 32 ounces of water to a rolling boil. The propane took a little bit longer to do the job than the butane, but it used less fuel. So which one do you choose to use? So the dual fuel butane and propane stove compares very well to the burners on a traditional regular kitchen stove. Quicker results than the small burner, and about even with the large burner. However, if you need to cook for several people, you might need to use more than one stove. If you were in need of using more than one stove at a time, probably would want to use it in the butane configuration, because the propane configuration takes up a lot more space. But with a dual fuel stove, you got the option of either fuel type. Okay, so there's a start on having your modern grid-powered kitchen converted to or able to use it as a grid-down kitchen. So if you guys like this video, you like the idea of this video series, working on your modern kitchen, changing it into a grid down kitchen, please let me hear from you in the comments that you like this series to continue. You liked the video, you didn't like it. As this series continues, if you guys like this series, we will look at other stove and fuel options. You're not limited to just butane and propane. And if you want, you can tell me down in the comments section what you'd like the next video in this series to consider. Other stove and fuel options, refrigerator options, if there are any, or whatever you'd like to see in the next video in the series.